On page 439 of the hardcover edition of his book, Enlightenment Now, Steven Pinker says the most religious states in the USA are the most dysfunctional states. That is the exact word that he uses, dysfunctional. His source of information for this claim is an article by someone named R.G. Delamontagne in a scientific journal called Evolutionary Psychology, Volume 8, page 617. So I looked at that article. Pinker is not telling the whole story and is obviously trying to deceive his readers. Delamontagne says, right in the abstract of the article, that his findings are only, quote, minimally supportive, unquote, of the idea that high religiosity contributes to societal dysfunction. When he looked at the data, he found that there is far more explanatory power in the, quote, inequality variables of education, income, and race, unquote, than in religiosity. So the fact that the USA has more societal dysfunction than other modern industrialized democracies is, quote, best explained by the United States' high degree of social inequality, unquote. Delamontagne doesn't say this, but anyone can see that societal dysfunction in the United States is mostly caused by the blacks and other minority groups. Anybody who looks at the FBI statistics that are published every year will see that the black crime rate is much higher than the white crime rate. You can look up the crime statistics in a book called The Statistical Abstract of the United States that is published every year. In the 2017 edition, Table 7 says that in 2014, the most recent year for which data was available, there were 246.6 million whites in the United States and 42.2 million blacks. Table 358, then, says that in 2014, 3,800 whites and 4,200 blacks were arrested for murder and non-negligent manslaughter. This indicates that out of every million whites in the United States, 15.4 were arrested for murder or non-negligent manslaughter, while out of every million blacks, 99.5 were arrested for murder or non-negligent manslaughter. So obviously, the black arrest rate for that crime was much higher than the white arrest rate. 99.5 compared to 15.4. Table 358 also states that in 2014, 11,000 whites and 4,900 blacks were arrested for rape. That means out of every million whites in the United States, 44.6 were arrested for rape, while out of every million blacks in the United States, 116.1 were arrested for rape. Once again, a very big difference. That same fact was also reported in an article that starts on page 23 of the July 1st, 2017 issue of The Economist, the most highly regarded news magazine in the English-speaking world. Anyone who looks at the World Almanac will see that the states with the smallest percentage of blacks, such as Utah, New Hampshire, Maine, Idaho, and the Dakotas, have the lowest crime rates. Experts have long debated why the black crime rate is so much higher than the white crime rate, but I've never heard anybody suggest that religion is to blame. Certainly Pinker mentions no such evidence. On the contrary, a massive study of ghetto life carried out by social scientists from Harvard University and published in 1986 found that young black men who went to church every week were much less likely to commit crimes than young black men who do not go to church. An article about that study written by Richard B. Freeman appears in the July 20th, 1986 New York Times. So come on, Professor Pinker, if you believe the high black crime rate is caused by religion, why can't you tell us what evidence makes you think that? In the face of this obvious question, Pinker just sits there and says nothing. He couldn't care less about the evidence. He just wants to tell his atheist fans the lies that they want to hear, so they'll buy his book. On page 453, in the last sentence of the book, Enlightenment Now, Pinker tells us that knowledge is better than ignorance. Then why is he trying to keep his readers ignorant?